Hey, and so bringing you the World of Warcraft. A little earlier today, I was walking my dog and I decided to listen to a couple of YouTube videos while I was walking. And one of them I happened to listen to was from Belluar, as you probably know him. He did a piece that basically railed on Legion's gearing system, as so many others have done before, and I'm sure people are going to continue to do. It's titled Modern WoW's RNG Overuse and Gearing, creating apathy and hurting the game. It came complete with a blistering thumbnail to pull you in, the whole modern gearing is a complete bore, boo, that sort of thing. To kind of top it all off, he included his own comment, which happens to be the top comment of the video, reading, "Blizzard, your gearing system is fucking terrible, get your shit together." I listened to it twice, I downloaded it, I want to talk about it, so I'm probably going to end up listening to it a couple more times as I'm recording this piece. But I want to respond for two reasons. One, I want to see if I can actually make a response video in this short of a time. Two is that I think he's wrong. And he makes some very good points in his video, so I do encourage watching it. I do respect him a lot, so this is nothing personal at all. Definitely watch the video, see if you agree with it, like or dislike it. It doesn't quite have all the information. It's heavily slanted, at least in my opinion, and doesn't quite acknowledge the viewpoints of all players. And it's impossible to do so. I can't ask several million players, both active and inactive. I mean, heck, that's over 100 million players. I can't ask them all. We can't get the full story. We can't speak for people. Maybe we can be a little bit representative of a certain opinion. And for anyone that knows me, you know that I try to be as balanced as possible when it comes to these kinds of opposing viewpoints. I've talked about this subject before. I do think that there are certain problems with legendaries and RNG and the amount of gear that drops. In fact, those opinions I'll provide it in links below if you wanted to take a listen or a watch for them. But I feel that while Belluar's opinion is passionate and it makes some strong points, I don't think it's fair. Now, this is entirely unfair to him and the work that he put into this piece, but I'm just going to go over just a couple of bullet points, and then I'll talk a couple of bullet points of my own. He uses a slot machine analogy, which I can definitely understand. There's a whole thing that Blizzard had talked about, and he talked about it too, where they were like, hey, we want legendaries and Timeforge to be like this awesome thing whenever it happens. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite acknowledge the many times where you're going to encounter not winning. How many times have you gone to your order hall and opened up your chest of disappointment? Or how many emissary quests have you completed only to open up your cache of false hope? And the same thing goes for role tokens, or whenever you finish a mythic dungeon, or whenever you kill a raid boss. But his viewpoints descend to pretty negative levels. He makes the example of, hey, if something does drop, let's pretend it's like an 875, whatever it is. It's like, maybe that could have been an 890, or a 900, or 900 bajillion, or something. And he's framing the argument that gear just isn't exciting anymore. And he made a very curious example of completing like a mythic dungeon or a mythic keystone dungeon, and how you can effectively come out with nothing. From there, it created this kind of circular thought process of, dreading to go online because it's like, oh, I'm going to be running Maw of Souls like 7 or 8 times, and I don't know if I'm going to get anything from it. Like, why should I even log on at this point? And like I said, those are all clear and succinct and valid viewpoints. One problem though, that scenario doesn't apply to everybody. It all comes to setting goals and expectations. And from the feel of it, Belluar speaks from the mindset of having gear as the ultimate reward. And in a system like Legion, where gear can possibly scale up to whatever's the best at the time, that's obviously going to spell a recipe for this circular negative behavior. On the other hand, I'm sure there are many players who look at the system of gearing in Legion, and that's not going to have any bearing on their day-to-day gameplay. The majority of players, or at least I'm going to assume that casuals make up the majority of players, are still only going to log on for like a little bit of time out of the week. They're going to do the minimum amount of work, like doing their emissary quests, maybe 1 or 2 dungeons, and that's about it. And that's what the entire Legion gearing system is based around. It's why there's still weekly reset. It's why emissary quests reset every 3 days instead of daily. If you've seen my other videos, I may sound like a broken record here, but Legion's system empowers the players with a lot more freedom than they had before when it comes to how they want to play the game in order to acquire the gear that they need to complete their objectives. And that's the point that I'm trying to drive, that this gear is just meant to be used as a tool to complete whatever the heck objective that it is you're trying to complete. Otherwise, yes, if gear is your ultimate goal, you are going to be stuck in this infinite loop of disappointment, because after every couple months or so, the gear is going to get better, or every expansion, the gear is going to be totally updated, and what you've worked so hard to get is going to be all for naught. What isn't, though, are the objectives that you were able to achieve with that gear. Some players can absolutely burn themselves out trying to farm mythic dungeons in order to get all 8 or 10 legendaries. Other players couldn't care less because their time and their energy just doesn't allow them to play as much as Blizzard's freedom gives them. And other people still couldn't care less because, well, that's not important for them. They're totally fine with just hoping that they get gear drops from whatever highest tier of content that they're trying to do. Where it comes to a head is the suggestion to bring back PvE currency like Valor Points. Valor Points, just as Beliar had suggested, does give an opportunity to give players a feeling of getting something out of whatever activity that they're doing, even if they don't happen to get the gear that they want. But one thing that he seemed to have totally neglected to talk about was artifact power. Now, say what you want about the whole grind for artifact power, but it is something that you get from almost everything that you do that does in fact increase your level of power. In fact, you have to put a lot of effort into not getting artifact power from your world quests or dungeons or raids or anything it is that you do. So it's not fair that this wasn't mentioned at all, at least from the few times that I went through the video. So my bad if I missed it, but it definitely was not something that was acknowledged fully. Artifact power was the thing that Blizzard had thought of many months before this video was made, before Beliar's video was made, before anyone started to complain about the whole slot machine effect. And it's this limitless RNG gearing system that Legion has, as well as the artifact power system, that creates this sort of balance. By contrast, I can do my own spin and shit all over Valor Points if I want to. Here's how. The Valor Point system forces me into a game of calculation and scheduling and math. Under a Valor Point system, I absolutely have to play this much content in order to get enough points to eventually get the thing that I want according to this math schedule, and I'll be able to get it in a certain number of weeks. Before even half the week's over, I capped on my Valor. From there, pretending that artifact power wasn't a thing, there's pretty much nothing else that I can do to strengthen my character. So what do? I switch to an alt, or I just stop playing. From there, I'm going to think to myself, well, why should I keep playing when there's nothing else that I can do for the week? I'll just have to wait till Tuesday to try it again. Well, what if I fall behind 1 week? Let's say I didn't do anything 1 week because I was on vacation or I was in the hospital or something. Because of that, I'll have effectively lost 1 week of progression. There's no way that I can catch up. I'll always feel behind, and that just won't feel good. From there, I'm just going to feel frustrated that my peers are, 1 or so weeks ahead of me, and there's nothing I can do about it. Finally, once I've exhausted the rewards that are available from Valor Points or whatever currency, that's it. There is no more progression on my character except for, like the raids. Anything else is just a waste of time. Both the beauty and burden of a limitless system is that it is possible to sort of catch up. Obviously, it's not a perfect system. Day 1, I can get a triple mythic legendary, and day 250, I could finally get something else. But it also means that there isn't a ceiling that you're gonna hit. Unless by some miracle you hit maximum item level with, Titan Forged everything. It also means that you can potentially surpass the item level of the content that you're normally doing. I mean, yeah, it gives you a sense of progression and feeling stronger, well beyond the content that you're working in. But is that really a problem? There's a lot of negativity that comes from envy and part of players who feel like, oh, well, this person who clearly does not deserve to have, Mythic Titan Forged, whatever it is, they got it and I didn't, and they didn't deserve it, and so on and so forth. And my question is like, so what? But I guess if anything, if there is a critique to have on Blizzard, it's the kind of disconnect that they have with players when it comes to comparing goals and gear, or I'm sorry, when it comes to comparing, what players' goals are. Like, a lot of players' goals is to acquire the best gear as possible, and others it's to just complete the objective, and gear is just kind of an afterthought or a tool, as I've mentioned before. But among much of the vocal player base, which seems to be the part of the players that like to complain, gear is in fact the goal, and of course, WoW has always been a very gear-centric game. Anyway, I think I'm going to cut this off for now. I don't know if I made my viewpoints clear, but I just think it's not fair that Beliar made such a heavy slant on his opinions without really acknowledging some of the other thoughts and viewpoints of other players. Feel free, though, to share your thoughts and sentiments, your likes and dislikes, anything like that. I'll see you guys next time. I'm Sol. Stay breezy, guys.